Okay, last week you were working in Illustrator to get your file prepped and ready to animate, and this week we're going to be beginning work in After Effects, getting your file to move around the screen. So first thing I want you to do, open After Effects if it's not open already. And I want you to go to the top. If you're in a PC, you're going to click Edit Preferences. If you are on a Mac, it's going to say After Effects up here. Click on After Effects Preferences. And there's Preferences right there. I want you to go to Autosave. And I want you to set Autosave, Save Every, to 3 minutes. I've got mine set to 5 minutes, which is pretty stable, so everything's good. You can do whatever you want to, but the default is like 20 minutes or something. That's not good. And what this will do is if you have a crash, it's automatically going to save. And there's going to be a folder wherever you save your project to, there's going to be a folder named autosave. And so if you have a crash, you could go in there and open the most recent version. By default, this is set to 5 versions. So it saves 5 versions, the oldest of which drops off the list every 3 minutes. And so the worst that could possibly happen to you is that you'll lose 3 minutes of work. Pretty good, right? And the autosave location, again, is right wherever you're saving your project. Okay. And so we're almost ready to save a project, but first let's go ahead and do a couple other things here. I want you to click on Window, Workspace, and Default. Click on that. Then I want you to go to Window, Workspace, Reset Default to saved layout. And again, that just guarantees that all of us are going to be looking at the same thing, and you should be able to find all the buttons real easily. Now you probably have a splash screen in front of you that looks something like this, and that's good. Um, if you'd like, you can go ahead and take the time to watch the intro tutorial that's produced by After Effects. I'm sure it's going to be a whole lot better than mine. Mine's going to be very specific to the project that we are working on, but this will be a good introduction to After Effects. I encourage you to go ahead and watch that. Now you have a choice over here of creating a new project or opening a project. We are going to open the project. And what I want you to do, just like we did last week, you had a zip file that had all this stuff in it. Assuming that you've got the file unzipped, what I want you to look for is this thing called AE Intro Turtle. And click on that and click Open. And now mine's telling me, uh-oh, this file has to be converted. Just say, okay, it's a new upgrade, and that'll happen to you quite often because Adobe is constantly upgrading their stuff. Now, something else I want you to do for me, in the very middle of the screen here, the top middle of the screen, you will see a little set of little colored circles here. Right next to this is the resolution. And I want you to make sure that the resolution is set to auto. Now, right off the bat, I've got some memorization for you to learn. Remember the acronym PSRT? P stands for position. So I've got my little OC logo down here chosen. We're just going to click on that layer. What is that? Layer 3. And type on your keyboard P. P is position. You'll see the position parameters show up. Here is the horizontal position, and here's the vertical position. We also call these X and Y. Type R now. R for rotation. And you'll see that we have two sets of numbers here, 0 times 0.0 degrees, okay? You know there's 360 degrees in a circle, so we can use this to set, we can type in a number, 90 degrees, or we can just click and drag back and forth to change the rotation. This is the number of rotations. So you can put in 4 rotations or 0 rotations. Let's try S. S for scale. Uh, by default, this is going to be set to 100%. Right now, this particular image has been set to 74.8%, so we've scaled it down a little bit, okay? Again, we've got two sets of numbers, horizontal and vertical. They are tied together right now. They're linked together in something called constrain. If we want to unconstrain this so that we scale one, horizontal or vertical differently than we do the other, then we would unconstrain by clicking that little icon right there. For the most part, you're never going to have to unconstrain. So P, S, R, and the last one is T. T for transparency. Oh, wait. No, not transparency. Opacity. Okay, opacity is the opposite of transparency. Okay, it just so happens O is taken up for something else. So just remember T for transparency. When it shows up as opacity. When something is 100% opaque, it's 100% visible and 0% transparent. Okay, so if we have 100% transparency, it's going to be 0% opaque. Okay, so just think of opacity and transparency as opposites. Okay, so that's PSRT, and I'm going to add one more to the list here, U. And U, what that's going to do is allow you to see at a glance anything that's animating already. So if you want to see your position, scale, rotation, transparency, animation that you've created, you want to see all of it at once, you just press the U key. Now to hide all of those, you just press the U key again. PSRTU. Okay, now, next I would like for you to click on the new composition icon. That's this little thing down here with the little three circles in it. Looks like a little piece of film. You could also go composition, new composition, or you could use the keyboard shortcut Control N. That's a lot of different ways to do it. This is the easy way, so we'll click on that guy. That's going to bring up a dialog for us. I want you to, for the rest of the semester, you're going to use the preset called HDTV 1080 29.97. You'll see it here in the drop down. It's all the way down at the bottom of the list of HD formats. Up here, these are small. These are getting bigger. And then we finally get the right one, HDTV 1080 29.97. I'm sure you know by now that 1080 refers to the height of the screen, 1080 pixels. 29.97 refers to the frame rate, 29.97 frames per second. If you go on down the list here, this is the larger formats, 4K and wow, even 8K. Okay, so we're back in the new composition dialog here. I want you to come down to the bottom and I want you to set the duration to 7 seconds. And the way you'll do that is just type 700, 700, 7 seconds and 00 frames. Let's give it a name, your name, underscore OC Final, OC Final, Ocean Conservancy Final. Great. Click OK. So now you'll see we have this composition that's been added to our project window over here. The project window is where you can see all of the files that have been imported into this project, where here we've got some music, here's our Illustrator file, OC logo, and we've got another composition here called Turtle Demo. That's one that you can look at to sort of compare your work to the one that we're going to do today. And here's another composition called Background Elements. It also shows demo out here, so it's for you to look at. We've got OC Final Demo, Turtle Scene Demo, all these things. So the next thing we're going to do is import a file. You can import by going File, Import, File. You could also use the keyboard shortcut Control I, or my favorite is just down here in the blank gray area, just double click. And I want you to navigate to your version of the file. And we'll go into footage. And here's the one that we saved from last week. Of course, yours will be named your name, and it's the one that you saved from last week. So we'll go ahead and import that. And the first thing that comes up is this dialog that says import kind. Okay, this is really important. If you import this as footage, it's going to come in as a single layer. We don't want footage, we actually want composition. So make sure you switch that to composition and click OK. And here we have now something called your name turtle scene. That's the one, right? That's not really what we want right now. Instead, we want this little folder. We're going to twirl down the folder, and we're looking for all of the layers in here. I'm going to go ahead and stretch this out a little bit so we can see what all is saved in here. And you can do this yourself if you like. Depends on how much screen area you have. I have a nice big screen. So we're going to select all of these layers, and we're going to drag them in, just like so. Now you're going to get to see why we did this. You're probably thinking, well, hey, hang on, we already had a composition with this name on it. Yeah, we did. The problem is the composition is really small. Look at here, we got a 1920 by 1080 workspace to work in here. But when we imported all of these layers, wow, it doesn't take up much of the screen. Remember though that we said that vector files are scalable. We can scale these without any loss in quality. So we're going to, even though we're starting with a small vector file, we're going to scale it up and it's going to look great. So let's make sure we have all of these layers selected. So we're going to click on one, hold shift, click on the bottom one, and we're going to hit the scale button. S for scale. And we're going to scale this up. Now you can do this. Again, these two parameters, horizontal and vertical, are constrained by default. So if we click and drag one of these guys, it's going to scale all of them. Okay. Now we can scale them up this way, or for us, we actually need the number 235. 235, we can just type in there, and that will get us to a spot where everything has filled the screen. See, I've got a little bit of black space right in here. I'm just going to go ahead and nudge this over. I'm using the cursor keys on the keyboard just to nudge it over, and that kind of makes it go slowly. We can nudge it quicker by holding the shift key, and it will nudge 10 pixels at a time rather than 1 pixel at a time. Okay, well, now everything is big enough and fills the background, and everything is good from that. Now you remember I promised you that this was going to be a very nice quality image. However, when we look at this, it's fuzzy. Okay, so we scaled it up to 235% of its original size. Now, as a raster file, a video file, or a bitmap, or a JPEG, or something like that, that we know now is made up of pixels, you got what you got. After Effects right now thinks that this is a pixel image. We have to tell it otherwise. We have to tell it that this is a vector image, and the way we do that is there's a little set of switches. The first set of switches in the timeline here is something called continuous rasterization, continuously rasterize, which I think is a funny thing. It really, to me, it should be continuously vectorized, but anyway, I'm not Mr. After Effects, so what do I know? We are going to turn on all of the switches. Since all of the layers are selected, when we click one, we're going to click them all. Okay, and now I want you to look up here. Oh, it's nice and pretty now. It's not fuzzy anymore. We've told After Effects, hey, this is a vector image, treat it as a vector, and make sure everything looks nice and clean. All right, so the next thing we have to do is to reorder these layers because they're kind of all messed up. So let's do that now. The first thing we need to do is find the left front flipper, and we're going to bring that to the top. Okay, there he is. It's in the wrong place, but there it is. We're going to just do our own thing here. We're going to drag it down into somewhere reasonably what we think is the right position. Doesn't matter if it's perfect or not. Next, we're going to have the body. And then behind the body, we need the right front flipper. So let's go find that guy. All right. The body of the turtle is just named turtle. So we got flipper left front, turtle, flipper right front. Then we've got this one turtle in the background. That's actually in the right place. Then we've got fish in the background. That's okay for now. And the background itself. So let's go ahead and select everything. Control A to select all. Then we're going to press the U key to make all of this stuff go away. U. So we'll select turtle in background. And we're just going to reach up there and grab it. Just make sure it's selected here. We'll just grab it and we're going to drag it down here somewhere. Okay, so what we have created here is a composition. This timeline that we see here is a composition, or a comp for short. Now what we're going to have to do next is pre-compose a few of these layers. In other words, we've got to create a comp inside of another comp. Now the way we're going to do that is we're going to select the flipper layer, flipper left front, the turtle layer, and the flipper right front. These are all the bits and pieces of the turtle. When you get all three of those selected, right click and choose pre-compose. Pre-compose. Let's name it your name turtle. Turtle. And we will click the box down here at the very bottom that says open new composition. Okay, so let's see what happens. Okay, this has isolated these layers for us. Okay, so we see the flipper, the turtle, the other flipper, and all the rest of that stuff seems to have gone away. All right, so let's go ahead and reposition the right front flipper down in here somewhere. I don't know, something like that, let's say. That seems pretty good. Maybe scoot it back a little. Well, that's probably okay. Something like that. Now let's click on the left front flipper layer. And we're going to try something real quick. Just watch me for a second. You don't have to do anything. I'm going to type the R key. And we're going to rotate this, but I just want you to notice here for a second. It's rotating around the center of itself. I'm going to undo, Control or Command Z. And so the problem here is that I need for this to be rotating up around the shoulder, okay, instead of rotating in the very center. So in order to fix this problem, and you're going to start working with me here, we're going to have to move this thing. This is called the anchor point. We're going to have to move the anchor point up into the shoulder area. So in order to do that, we're going to go up and we're going to click on the pan behind tool right there. And that's going to allow us to grab the anchor point, and we're just going to move that right up into the shoulder area. Now, I'll point out to you that the time in our timeline is listed right here, 0 to 7 seconds. Okay. Now we can zoom in or zoom out on this timeline by scrolling this little bar down here. We see a little set of mountains and a big set of mountains right here. So the further we push this to the right, the more zoomed in we're going to get. Just go ahead and zoom it all the way out. This will guarantee that we see all 7 seconds of our timeline. So we're going to start at 2 seconds and 15 frames. Several ways we can do this. We can drag this down until we find that 2:15 mark, or we can just type in the number right over here. Click on that guy, type in 215, enter, and we're going to jump right to the 2 second 15 frame mark. And we're going to set a keyframe. The way we set a keyframe is we're going to click on the stopwatch right here next to rotation. So we click on that, and you'll see that up here pops a little diamond shape, a little blue diamond. That's a keyframe, okay? Now this is important to point out to you. We only have to click this guy once to create keyframes. If I were to click this again, watch what happens. Oh, the keyframe disappeared. It's not there anymore. Okay, so once you click this one time, it's going to put as many keyframes as you need onto the timeline. We're going to go ahead and click that. Now we're going to jump back to the 15 frame mark. And we're going to rotate the flipper 17 degrees. 17. So what we've done is we've rotated that flipper forward to 17 degrees. Now if we scrub the timeline using this thing right here, this little guitar pick looking thing, that's called the playhead or the CTI, current time indicator. I like playhead better. And we just scrub that back and forth. We're going to see how the flipper is rotating. Boom. Great. Okay. Now what we need to do is select both of these keyframes. So in order to do that, we can do it several different ways. We can draw a box around them, or we can click on this word over here, rotation, which will automatically select all of the keyframes for that layer. Okay. Now what we're about to do is something called Easy Ease. Now by default, we see these diamonds. What that's telling us is we have linear keyframes. Linear keyframes mean that they start on a dime and stop on a dime, okay? But we want something more natural. We need kind of the gas pedal and the brakes for these keyframes. And in order to do that, if you're on a Mac, you're going to have to right-click on either one of these keyframes. Got both of them selected. And we're going to go down to Keyframe Assistant, Easy Ease. Now, we'll tell you, if you're on a PC, you can just use the F9 key on the keyboard. F9 on a Mac has a different function, and so without some intervention, we're not going to be able to use F9 on a Mac. But just click Easy Ease. And what that's going to do, now the keyframes look like hourglasses instead. And so if we were to play through this, we would see that the animation starts kind of slowly, ramps up to speed, and then slows to a stop. Now we can play the timeline by simply hitting the space bar, and it will show you the animation there. We can hit the space bar again to stop. We can use the home key. If you have a home key on the keyboard, home will allow you to jump to the very beginning of the timeline. You can play. There it goes. Space bar. Not everybody has a home key. If your keyboard has an end key, end will allow you to jump to the end of the timeline. So those are kind of two happy little helpers. Now we're going to animate the right front flipper. So first of all, let's go ahead and let's go ahead and hide the keyframes for this layer using our Uber key, the U key. So just press U and it will disappear. And let's select the right front flipper. And we are again going to make sure that the pan behind tool is selected. And we're going to move the anchor point up around in that area somewhere. As long as you're close, it's going to be okay. So go ahead and move to 15 frames in the timeline. Press R for rotation and just set a keyframe for rotation by clicking the stopwatch. And now let's jump to 215. And we're going to set the rotation to minus 28. Minus 28. And now we need to easy ease these keyframes. So we're going to click on this word rotation. And again, if you are on a Mac, you have to right click, go to Keyframe Assistant, then Easy Ease. If you're on a PC, you simply hit the F9 key on the keyboard. And we'll preview the timeline. Let's press the home key or drag your playhead to the beginning. Press the space bar, and there we'll see our flippers are rotating. Notice here that there are 4 tabs that are open at the top of the timeline here. We're looking for your name OC Final. We're going to click on that. And there, if we were to play through the timeline, scrub the timeline, we'll see, okay, well, there's the animation that we just did with the little flippers. Okay? So that's the way this whole thing works with comps inside of comps. You can see that comp right there at the top, which is the turtle. So what we're going to do is make this turtle float through the scene. And so we're going to animate position. So type P. But we also want to see the scale property at the same time. So hold Shift and type S. And now we'll see both position and scale. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and show transparency. So again, hold Shift and type T. So there we go, position, scale, and opacity all showing. Let's go ahead and set scale to 20%. That's going to make our turtle small. And before we start dragging the turtle into position, notice that we still have our pan behind tool. We're going to have to go over to this second tool on the list called the selection tool. That's kind of our basic tool. That's the one we pretty much are always going to have selected unless we, are doing something special. So we got the selection tool selected. So we're just going to pull him up into the upper right of the screen. And let's go ahead and set opacity to 20%. And let's go ahead and set keyframes for all three of our properties right there at the beginning of the timeline. And we'll see now that what's just barely visible is just as if we're floating through the abyss of the ocean. Let's jump to 1 second and 15 frames in the timeline. We will set opacity back to 100%. Now we'll jump down to 5 seconds, and we're going to set scale to 88%. 88%. And we're going to drag this guy all the way off the screen down here. Now I want you to notice now that there is this line that appears in here. This is called the motion path. So this is where it starts. This is where it ends somewhere. I'm going to go ahead and roll the mouse back a little bit so we can see this whole motion path. Now, this motion path right now is a straight line, but there are these two little dots that appear here, a little bit in from each edge. And these allow us to change from a straight line, a linear motion path, to a Bezier motion path. Bezier means curve. And so what we're going to do is we're just going to grab hold of that circle, and we're going to drag it down a little bit, and we'll go get the other one, which is up here, and we're going to drag it down a little bit. So all we're trying to do is just kind of change the trajectory a little bit of our turtle. I think I'll bring this guy up a little. Yeah, drag him on off the screen. Maybe have him come down and maybe just up a little, something like that. You can kind of play with it to see how everything is going to look for you. Okay, so let's go ahead and preview the timeline, see how he's looking. All right, that's not bad. It's not bad, but we've got some work to do yet. I'm going to go ahead and press the home key here. In fact, let me go to the middle of the timeline something like that. And so here's the problem with this. He's floating perfectly straight. Now, there are several different ways that we could do this. If we wanted to, we could adjust the turtle's rotation. We're not going to mess with rotation now, but we could have him pointing down and then pointing over. But there's an automated way that we can do this so that the turtle follows, in rotation, follows this curved path. Okay? The way we do that is we're going to go and click Layer, Transform, Auto Orient. And it's going to say auto orientation here. We want to choose orient along path. We'll click OK. And watch what happens. Oh no, the turtle's upside down. Wow, that's really screwed up. Well, it's an easy fix. This happens sometimes. We're going to press R for rotation, and we're going to rotate 180 degrees. We're not going to animate. We're just going to flip him over. So now, when we play through, there he goes. Let's go ahead and play it out. Now we're going to stop right there, folks. That's as far as we're going to go this week. We will continue with this next week. You're welcome to move ahead if you like, but that's it for us. I want you to go ahead and save, file, save as, and let's give this guy a name. Let's call it your name, AE Intro Turtle, something like that, and click Save. And we're done, folks. Now, you don't have to turn this in this week. I want you to be working on your own at this point. So what I'd like for you to do is to take your file, the one you created and turned in last week, and start to work on some animation in After Effects. And let's see how you do. Now, you're liable to run up against some trouble. If you do, please, please, please get in touch with me right away. The worst thing that can happen to you is that you suffer in silence. You go, oh no, I feel so stupid. Mine's not working right, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about all this. Do not beat yourself up. It's brand new to you. You're going to have weird things happen. Reach out to me immediately. We can do one-on-one tutorials. We can trade emails back and forth. We can talk on the phone. We can do anything you want to. I promise you, I will help you solve your problems. But you gotta reach out to me. Guys, have fun this week. Let me know if you have questions.